Sorry, let us switch the internet. Like the internet here is not okay. Okay. Hello, can you hear us? Yes, I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear us? Hello, can you hear us?
Okay. So what
can you
hear? You're doing that, please can someone lead us in an opening prayer for us to start?
The internet is giving some challenge. Can you hear us?
I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me. I can hear you.
Oh, good. I can hear you very well. Okay.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yes.
Okay, please, can someone lead us in an opening prayer so we can start?
Okay. Somebody lead us.
Father,
Son of Holy Spirit.
our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. God the Father, not the Son, not the Holy Spirit, in whom the fountain of knowledge and wisdom is inexhaustible. We call you today and at this moment to bless us with the whole necessary wisdom and knowledge to comprehend and ascertain concerning this course and this program. We also ask for your wisdom to guide us as we embark to use this particular program in the mighty name of Jesus. We cover our deliberation with the precious blood of Jesus. We cover what we are going to learn with the precious blood of Jesus. Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen. In the name of Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Amen.
Okay. Are we ready for our presentation, or do I go ahead and start the class? Are we ready for our presentation? Okay. So let me start. So we're starting today with another of the rubric, and this one is called knowledge construction. It's called knowledge construction, and here we're going to look at knowledge construction as main requirements, applying their knowledge, and interdisciplinary learning activity. So what does knowledge construction mean? Knowledge construction happens.
We can't see you.
What?
We can't see your slide. We can't see your slide. The slide.
I'm sharing my slide. Mr. Albert, can we use a very stable network so we're not having all these glitches? Because I'm sharing my slide.
Can't even see it.
I just stopped share and I'm resharing again. Can you see it now?
No.
I just reshared it again.
Okay, it's coming now.
Can you see my slides now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. So basically, the first stage of knowledge construction is that point where students are trying to either interpret, analyze, where they kind of do like compare and contrast. So it's not, students are not reproducing knowledge. So what I mean by students are not reproducing knowledge, it means that, for example, I teach children that parallel lines are equidistant from each other. And then I'm asking a child, what is a parallel line? And then the child just says, parallel lines are equidistant from each other. They are just repeating, transferring what I've given to them. They are not interpreting or analyzing. They are not taking it beyond what I have said. There's no situation where they are able to compare and contrast. The child is not able to tell me that, oh, parallel lines are equidistant from each other. This means that no matter how far they go, they never get to meet. And then the child is not able to look around and say, for example, if you look at the burglary on the window, the lines that have been used on the burglary on the window are parallel lines. Or the child is not able to look around and say, oh, the steps, the principle that is used in building staircase, it's the principle of parallel lines. So that's why we're able to work on it, because they don't meet. You know, children, they are not able to go beyond what you have given. So if you define what biology is or define any simple thing, they give it back to you like that. They are not able to compare and contrast. Their children are not able to say, okay, this is a living thing, this is a non-living thing, and why it's not. They don't go be, so they are just, if they constantly just reproduce information given to them, then there's no knowledge construction. So it says, for example, students might research a historic period and infer why people behaved or lived like that in that period. So for example, I am teaching on history and children are able to look back and said, oh, okay, in those days, during the killing of twins, why were they doing that? What was the rationale behind it? Why did people live that way? What made them come up with those kind of tradition? Now, I'll give a very common tradition in my own place. Women don't inherit from their father's house. So if you're a lady, once you marry, you can never inherit a property in your father's house. Now, can children sit down and think, why? Can they be able to analyze that situation and give reasons as to why they feel those kind of laws or those kind of traditions were put in place? Oh, during marriage rites, a particular culture, they believe that they must break the collar. Can they infer why? Why did they come up with that? So children should be able to go beyond just, you know, what you are dishing out. They should think. Knowledge construction is about thinking deep. Like, for example, this morning when I had my class, I told my students something. I said, you need to train your brain to reason. You need to train. So those are the things we're saying. Are we ensuring that children are training their brain to reason? Because there's no examiner that is going to set question the way you, especially when it goes to external exam, the way you thought it. You are not the examiner. The examiner is only going to set question based on the concept. So based on that concept, can children interpret? Can children analyze? So what if the question is twisted this in an XYZ way? For example, I like to use maths because that's my subject. I can tell you for free, in recent times, WAEC has had this pattern. Virtually every year, they bring out questions on simultaneous equation, but the question never literally spells out simultaneous equation. It's always up to the children to interpret that question and be able to infer that, okay, what they need me to use to solve this question is the principle of simultaneous equation. It will never come out and say, solve the equation 2x plus 3y is equals to 5, and this, no way. So students should be able to investigate environmental factors and determine why, most likely, what's affecting my migrating birds. There's a lot that is changing. Yesterday, I was having a conversation with someone. I said, since I was born and now I am getting old, I have never had a period where I didn't feel harmattan. You know, when you wake up in the morning, I don't know, maybe in Abuja, people are having harmattan. Are you people experiencing harmattan season in Abuja? Please share with me. Yeah. Because the only thing we can say is that, yes, we're in dry season. Even rain is showering once in a while here. But we are in dry season, weather is very hot. And then you're sure that you are going out and coming in for the next 2 weeks and there might be no rain. But you see, that's cold feeling, when you wake up in the morning and you know that this is harmattan, that you will even shiver a bit. We have not had 1 inch of it here this year. So now, can children sit down and begin to think and analyze why? Or if you don't tell them, they can't reason. What you have taught them, the principles you have used in class, can they look back and use those principles to say, okay, this is probably the reason why we're experiencing this? So very, very important that we train our children that way. To synthesize, identify the relationship between 2 or more items, evaluate issues. They should be able to make judgments. They should be able to make judgment on issues. They should be able to read different accounts, you understand, and determine which is most credible. Children should be able to determine what is most credible based on the principles you have taught them. So they are living a life beyond your classroom. That's what we're saying. They should be able to live a life with what you have taught them beyond your classroom. Let it not be that what you have taught them ends in your classroom. Let it not be that a child in your classroom goes out there and they're having a conversation on something that has to do with governance and they can't contribute. That's what is going to pull people to your school. Because when people go out and they're having a conversation and your student can make an intellectual conversation with people, people will say, which school? Which school? The next thing they say, oh, which school do you attend? I mean, your contributions are so valid. Which school? And the next thing you say, I didn't know that school had excellent teachers like that. And they are looking for your school. Your students will sell you, but it depends on what you're putting in them, which is very important. Now, it says students use details in a story to infer the reason why a character committed a crime. They look at it and they are able to say, this is why this crime was committed. This is why literature teacher, do I have a literature teacher there, please? Unfortunately, the camera is off, so I'm not seeing people. Do I have the literature teacher in the house? English literature.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, good. Now, I know that in literature, there's one thing they always do. They will tell you that based on this book, explain why. I'll give a scenario, which is one of the things I think, like this year, globally in Nigeria, literature result was quite poor. It was a general thing. It wasn't like it was, and when people were having conversations, I gave them an illustration of something that happened in my school. The literature teacher had asked them a question that had to do with, and I don't know the text, but I know the question was, in that particular text, why were the women of Owu considered weak? And all the children, I mean, an all girls school, so they took it personal and said, women are not weak. Now, you see that literature question now, it's saying explain in your own words. That's what we're saying, because that's where it's tending towards. So imagine that you have not taught children to be able to interpret things beyond the literary meaning. If we have some of you here that mark WAEC, I don't know if there's anybody amongst you that mark WAEC, you find out that even when they mark WAEC questions, one of the things that NU mark, especially in questions where they say discuss, explain, is they are looking for how you're able to use your own words. Even when they say define, they are not expecting you to come and quote essential biology word for word or modern biology word for word. They're expecting you to be able to apply that. And that's what we're saying. Teach children that in your classroom. Because at the end of the day, everybody's looking for a critical thinker. Because if I'm going to employ people right now, I'm looking for people who can think. I'm looking for people who would bring the innovation on board for me. And if you're not a critical thinker, you can't bring anything on board. That's where the world is right now. The other aspect is knowledge construction as the main requirement. So it's one thing to have knowledge construction. It's another thing as the main requirement of your learning activity. The activities you give to these children, does it require them to construct knowledge? And when we say main requirement, we're talking of time and efforts. So what part of the learning activity do students spend the most time? Do they spend the most time on an activity where they need to reproduce knowledge, or do they spend the most time on, for example, I am going to ask students, list the characteristics of living things. That's my full question. I'm not asking them to explain any aspect of it. I'm not asking them to explain any aspect of it. So how many minutes is it going to take them to list the characteristics of living things? We used to even form a song with it. Before you know, they are done. But if you give them a question that says, explain the different characteristics of living things, before they explain, they will need to list. They'll need to list it. And then they need to, when they are explaining, they will not just explain based on definition. They would have to explain with examples. So if you teach a class, and I am begging us, please, I'm glad that we're a Christian school. You know, I always use this. I tell people, I said, I told someone the other day, I said, I am not loyal. I'm not saying I'm not loyal to my organization, but my most important loyalty is to my students. Because I live with one principle: children are the heritage of God. So I'm careful with what I do, because I know that I will give account of every life that passes through me. I know I will give account of every student that passes through me. And I keep saying this, if we mold their lives properly, imagine how Nigeria would change. We are holding the future in our hand. What are we doing with it? What are we impacting in them? Do we do a disservice to ourselves and say, I beg, I don't want to give them anything that will give me stress to mark. Let me just give them this one so that in 2 minutes I finish marking. In 2 minutes I finish marking. Because, and you don't know that you're shortchanging that child. You're shortchanging that child. In 2 minutes, you are finished marking at the disservice of the child. You're not pulling anything out of that child. So that's why we say effort and time. Are you looking at, please let them just do it in 1 minute and finish so that I will mark quickly and submit. I remember I had a challenge with someone. It was an exam. The exam was supposed to be 2 hours. In 45 minutes, these children were done writing. And I'm like, what is going on here? I had to insist that they do another exam because it's a disservice to the children. It means the children didn't have the opportunity to use their brain. So why have they been given that intellect if they are not going to use it? So please, let's consider time and effort. So it says a student made a short list of important details from a story, then wrote an essay using these details as evidence for why a character committed a crime. Now, the no is a student made a long list. Writing a list, the child is not going to be using any form of, they're not stressing to write it. Writing a long list, they are not thinking. They're not using any form of knowledge construction there. And then at the end of the day, they just write 2 sentences. So it says the work implies that most of the students' time was spent listing details, a recall task. So they were just spent recalling what you said. They were not spent thinking. There was no time spent to analyze issue. There was no time spent to evaluate. So we need to watch as we progress with our children and we're creating activities for them to do. We should ask ourselves the question, this activity, this task I'm going to assign to these children, what is it going to bring out of them? Is it going to make them critical thinkers? Or are they just going to pick up a textbook and download it? Just pick up their textbook, write the answer and submit. Like I had to change my daughter's school because the school where she was, when they give her homework, if she enters the house in 10 minutes, she has finished the homework and she will look for cartoon. I'm not saying she shouldn't watch cartoon, but I'm just wondering, how does a child do an assignment in 10 minutes? Like a whole lot of assignment. And she did not even bother to think. You won't even see her sit down to say, this one, how am I supposed to do it? It's not stressing her. So as far as I'm concerned, we're not challenging my child, and I'm not ready for that. So the same thing with the children, because tomorrow the children will look back. I always say this. I told someone today, I said, I'm not too bothered about what any management says about me. I'm not too bothered about what any director says about me. In fact, I told someone, I said, I can choose today to tell them that I don't want to be a head of department anymore. I don't want to be part of the management team anymore because that's not my priority. Yes, it's a good thing to be in the management, but it's not my priority. My priority is to impact the lives of my children. And that's where I focus on. I want to be able to know that I contributed my own quota to Nigeria in my space where I am. by raising disciplined Nigerians, critical thinkers that can come out and become problem solvers tomorrow. So the other one is apply their knowledge. So, like I said, apply their knowledge in a new context, different from where they were given the knowledge initially. So when you teach a child A and the child gets into maybe an exam or the child goes home, can the child apply it? I'll give a scenario that happened where my mother-in-law's house is. It was a very sad event. The girl was, I think she was trying to fry plantain, and she had put the oil in the frying pan and probably went out to do something. I don't know why she didn't think that the oil would be too hot by the time she gets back. And when she got back, oh, the oil was already hot, and she put the plantain in and fire came up. And she didn't know what to do. And I kept saying, she's probably been in a PHE class. Was she taught on safety? Well, was she, even if she was taught in a way that she could transfer that knowledge to home issues? Because if she had been taught properly, she had taken the cover of a pot and just covered that and that fire would have died off. But she didn't know what to do, and she left, and the whole house went off. Listen, I'm telling you, the whole flat came down. Everything came down. The only thing they survived it was their life. So are we teaching children to transfer knowledge beyond our classroom? Are we teaching children to impact their environment beyond our classroom? Can I teach a child something and a child is somewhere and there's a problem and that child is able to use what I taught to solve that problem? Or I'm just teaching them to pass an exam? Very important. So those are a few silent questions we need to ask ourselves as we move in this step. The children I'm teaching, am I teaching them to pass WAEC? So they just write WAEC exam and they forget? Or am I teaching them to be able to go? I told someone, I said, if you are teaching in maths, you teach statistics, and you've never used an Excel to tutor your children, you're doing a disservice. Because the entire statistics and everything you do, you can do it with Excel because that's where the world is now. So we need to learn these things. We need to ask ourselves, for example, a lot of our students, they do food and nutrition, but they can't even help their mother to bake. It means that whatever they learned in my class did not make meaning. That's the truth. Whatever they learned in my class did not make meaning. I should believe that in this age, I'm an agric teacher and I'm teaching them some things. You know that with sack bag, you can plant a yam and harvest it and it'll come out as real yam. Just put soil in the sack bag. Have we been able to impact our children in such a way that they go back home and they create their own small garden? Are they transferring knowledge to a new context? Are they taking knowledge beyond your classroom and using it? Have I been able to teach my child so well that my child will step in somewhere and someone is trying to make them do something that is wrong, and they can boldly say, I learned in my civic education class what it means to be a real citizen. I would not be involved in this. Elections were last year. A lot of people talked about vote buying, this, and I said, when we're growing up, we're impacting knowledge. Did we let them understand what the value of being a patriotic citizen? It starts from us. I know a lot of people will say, oh no, it's their parents. Their parents need to train them. Let me tell you the honest truth. Between me and you, how many hours do you spend with your own children? That is you that is a teacher that probably you will close early and go home. Think of the ones that their parents work in different places. Some of them, their parents don't see them. Abuja might be different. In Lagos, it's terrible. Because by the time you wake up 5 a.m., your child is probably still sleeping. And by the time you are coming back 9 p.m., the child is back in bed. So it's only maybe on Saturday you see the child a little bit. And then Sunday when you go to church together. So they're spending more time with us. Unfortunately, that's where the world is driving to now. Because things are difficult. I told somebody, I said before, if the father was the only one working, now the mother is also looking for a job because the economy is tough. They have to pay bills. Are we teaching children to apply knowledge in a new context? Very important. So it says students analyze demographic statistics from their hometown and then use their understanding of population trend to develop a plan for an upcoming housing development project. So obviously, they've been taught something. And then they have a challenge. They're able to respond to it. So children should be able to take the knowledge we're impacting in their lives beyond our classroom. Very, very important. The last one is interdisciplinary learning activities. And this part for me, it's very important for us as teachers because the truth is when you look at it, there are a lot of things. There's something you're doing in biology that you will need a knowledge from home economics. Have you really considered to make your activity interdisciplinary? I am teaching a topic in maths. Why don't I bring statistics from sports, football, to be able to answer that question? Because the reality is there might just be that child who is a football fan, and the fact that I am bringing in football into it might just be the game changer for that child. I don't know if you understand me. Give me a minute, please. Are you? Okay, so do you understand what I'm trying to say? So we need to make sure that everything is interdisciplinary. There's a mix of everything. When we're growing up, we learned the first 20 elements using a song. It was chemistry, it was science, but music was brought into it. So let's learn to merge our subjects in teaching because we'll need a bit of history. A bit of history might just be the game changer for that child that's not getting that thing in biology. Because that's where their flair is. Let our activities be interdisciplinary. Let's bring in arts into the language setting. Let's bring in English. I mean, see, if you're teaching children, let's say, for example, you're an economics teacher, and then children have to write something for you, and you look at it, there's so much of spelling and grammatical error, and you're able to point it out. You're helping that child. Because if you, as the economics teacher, is ignoring those things, there's no way the child will learn to do it right. Because it's like it's only the English teacher that is correcting. And that's where they will now say, I hate this English. I don't like English for XYZ reasons. Because you're overlooking things that you should have corrected. So yes, I might be a biology teacher or I might be a chemistry teacher, and I've asked students to carry out an experiment and they need to write a report on that experiment. Please, when you're reading the report, do not overlook important things. And if you don't know how to go about it, ask the English teacher for help. Ask the English teacher for help. When I wanted to teach ratio, I went to meet the home economics teacher. And I told the home economics teacher, oh yeah, please come and give me ratio for making cookies. What are the ingredients and what proportion? The way you are going to, I said, how you are going to teach it to them. Those proportions, the values, if you're going to say 2 grams to 2 grams of sugar to 5 grams of flour to this, to give it to me, how you're going to use it. That's thing you want to use with them in class. That was what I used for my maths class. Because the reality is, when they see it from the home economics and they also come into the maths class, it makes more sense. It helps their learning. There are times when I've gone to the visual art teacher and I've said, can you help me with 1 or 2 things? I need to bring it into my maths class. I've gone to the music teacher and I said, can you help me create a song on this maths concept? I need to use it. How do I create the song so that the formula, they can just rhyme the formula in class and it sticks? That's how the children will not forget to. Because when they get into that exam hall, that formula that seems difficult, by the time they rhyme it, it comes back into their head. And they are not going to forget it. Let's merge interdisciplinary, 2 or more subjects. Look at it. There might be things that are common across board with different subjects. See how you can apply it and work. Engage your learners. So that's what we mean. So you must see 2 academic fields. ICT is not considered interdisciplinary because by all standards, everybody should use ICT. Everyone should be using technology in teaching. So when you say technology or you say ICT, it's not interdisciplinary. Interdisciplinary is 2 academic subjects: science, arts, history, language, arts, language, science, social science, arts, interdisciplinary. I can be teaching government and the story of Joseph will apply somewhere in the Bible. From the Bible will help me with my government class. I can be teaching a principle in civic education and the story of Samson would help somewhere. There are things we can pull out. There are things we can pull out and it will work. Helps make more meaning to our classroom. I can even be teaching economics and I can bring in things from history class and use it in my economics class. Because sometimes that child is that thing that would be the game changer for that child. Let's not just say, no, it's economics. If it's not economics, no, you can't bring in. I remember I was trying to, I was doing a training somewhere and I had this accounts teacher. She said, no, it can never work in accounts. And I'm like, excuse you, can you at least try? And then she was right there with a history teacher. And while she was saying it can never work, the history teacher was like, ma, I teach history. How do you think I can use this principle? Can you make suggestions? And I made suggestions. By the end of the term, the account teacher was coming because the history teacher's class had changed. And she even got an award and a commendation for it. So she was coming back and saying, hey, ma, I said, it's now you remember. Let's not block our mind. Because a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have changed. So it says students in science class write persuasive letter to an environmental organization about the results of their experiment. That's English language and science. That's English language and science. So you can blend them. Like I said, When I wanted to teach ratio, I went to the home economics teacher. Can I have data to use, please? Can I have data to use? Let's not teach children in abstract. I don't teach my children that I'm teaching them any topic and I teach them in abstract. I research what's the real life scenario for this topic and I bring it in. And I structure the question that way. That's how they understand. Because they won't forget. Once it's in line with, they won't forget. Any questions, please? Any questions? Mr. Abbott, your camera is off. I'm not seeing people, so it's a bit distracting. Any questions? Hello, any questions? Okay, so here we are now up to the rubric. And the rubric is at the first stage where there's no knowledge construction, meaning children are either cramming and just pouring back to you. It is not considered knowledge construction. So that's level 1. Now, level 2 is at the point where children are now required to interpret, analyze, synthesize, and evaluate information. Level 3 is they've gone beyond now knowledge construction. They are now looking at main requirements. Main requirement is knowledge construction. Level 4 is at that point where your learning activity is now such that children are now applying knowledge in new contexts. So, for example, I teach children how to draw a visual arts teacher. Help me out here. I'm trying to look for something very realistic. I teach children how to draw okay, let's say I teach children how to draw a flute. And based on the knowledge or what the skills I have put in place for them on how to draw a flute, a child is able to draw a complete musical instrument. And speaking of visual arts teacher, please, I hope you know that technology is changing the face of visual arts right now. So see how you get involved in it and get your students involved, because technology is changing the space when it comes to visual arts rapidly. So see what you can do to help your children in that light too. And then the other one is interdisciplinary learning activity. So don't say that I'm a maths teacher, what's my business with what's happening in economics? Find out, are there concepts in economics they are using? There might be a way they are using fraction in economics. Go and find out, incorporate it into your own maths. It will make more sense to your children. Or for example, biology teacher, please, when they misspell, make sure they correct it. Don't ignore, just say, they got the concepts, they got the idea. So the spelling error is just one word is missed. Please correct them. It would help them in English class too. That's why we're saying activities should be interdisciplinary. So for the science teachers that love flow diagram, this is a flow diagram of the rubric. Requires knowledge construction, yes, no. Main requirement is knowledge construction. If it's yes, goes to level 3. If it's no, stays at level 2. Students apply their knowledge in new contexts. If it's yes, level 4, and if it's no, level 3. And then learning activity is interdisciplinary. If it's yes, it comes down to 5, and if it's no, it stays at 4. Okay. The next one we're going to look at, I hope we're ready for my presentation. Hope we are ready for my presentation. Okay. The next one we're going to look at is self-regulation. And we'll look at the big idea. We're going to look at self-regulation and we'll look at the big idea for self-regulation. And it says long-term activity, planning own work, and revised work based on feedback. Long-term activity, planning own work, revised work based on feedback. long-term activity. Now, learning goals, success criteria. I don't know if there's anyone that wants to share with me what they think. Do those two things mean the same thing, or do they mean two different things? The learning goal and the success criteria. Yes, anybody with idea? Okay, now we do learning objective. Do we do learning objective? Do we do learning objectives when we're writing? Yes. So your learning objective is like your learning goal. Your learning objective is like your learning goal. So children should understand, they should know the learning objective. And then the success criteria should be that the child should understand that, okay, for this topic, there are 3 things that we are going to learn. Success criteria is, can that child sit back and say, I am successful because I am done with number 1. I am successful because I can handle number 2. I am successful because I can handle number 3. So it says learning activities considered long-term if students work on it for a substantive period of time. If the learning activity is completed in a single class period, there's no time for students to plan the process of their work, nor improve their work over multiple drafts. It's not long-term. Length of time is important for self-regulation. So your learning goal defines what is to be learned and how these goals fit with prior or future learning. So my learning goal on a particular topic, the child should be able to link it to something they had done before and probably something they are going to do in the future. Success criteria is evidence of students' progress and success in learning in that activity. Can children make a judgment of their progress and learning? Do you structure learning in such a way that a child can comfortably say, yes, today's class, I can say that I was able to do 1, 2, 3. I still need to work on 4, 5, 6, but at least 1, 2, 3, I am successful. And for those of you that are class teachers, I would want to encourage you, something I did with my children, and it went a long way. A lot of times, like I said, children are the heritage of the Lord. There's no sacrifice you make for these children that you don't reap in a million folds. When it starts coming back, you'll be wondering, God, where, how? I told someone, I said, in 2023 alone, I traveled out of the country to 2 different countries. I did not spend 5 kobo on any of the trips. They were all expense paid. I remember when I got a job into the school where I work at present, I came in and 2 weeks after I was made the head of department and I was put on the management team. I was put on the board of the management. One day I was having a conversation with somebody. She's a very old staff. I think she's been in the school like 7, 8 years before I came in at that time. And she said something which I want to share with you, and I want you people to take it and don't look at what you're doing for the children. Be sure that God would give it to you. Your reward is not in heaven, you will get it here on earth. And she said something. She told me, she said that when I came in and they made me the head of department, that she on her own, she was like, where did this one come from? Now, she just came. Who is she that she just came? They just made her head of department. And she said something. She said, as she was saying it, that the Holy Spirit spoke to her and said, do you know the seeds she has sown where she's coming from? That was what she said. I left my former school. My former school, I was never head of department. Then I come into a new space, and in 2 weeks, I'm made the head of department. And I have constantly grown. When I mean I have constantly grown, I have constantly grown. Oops, they're out.
Yeah, sorry, the thing went off. NEPA took the light. Oh.
Okay. Okay. Please, can they see my screen?
Very well.
Okay, good. So like I said, it's important that we share learning goals and success criteria with our students. Now, it says students keep a journal about their nutrition over the course of a week, and then students document. So, keeping a journal over the course of a week is a long time, and there will be more meaning to what they're going to be doing than what they do in 2 days. Now, the next one we talk about is planning work. When students plan their own work, they make decisions about the schedule, the steps they would follow to accomplish the tasks. Planning their own work may involve deciding. Now, for example, I gave an activity for you people to do yesterday, and I didn't choose what you were going to do. I don't even know how you want to do your presentation. I've not made that decisions for you. The only thing I said was they should divide you into groups. Who is going to speak on behalf of your group? I don't know. Where you chose to meet to do your presentation, I'm not aware. I didn't have to make that decision for you. So what we're saying, let children think. Let children take ownership of their work. We're not saying leave them, especially for those in the nursery primary school, you can't completely leave them alone. You would guide. But when we say guide, we're not saying guide and hold their hand completely. Guide.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm not sure. This is not where we stopped when the light went off.
Oh, but I started from there. Didn't you people see that?
For long term
let me go back.
Long
yes,
term,
that
yes,
was
this is where we stopped. Okay.
Yes. Can we see this?
Yes.
So I said, have we looked at this one? So this is the next one. Is this okay, or you want me to go back?
It's okay. It's okay.
Okay. So what I was saying is, for those in the primary school, you can't leave them alone completely. But as much as you're going to guide them by asking them questions. For example, I've put them in group in the primary school. The secondary school, they're mature. They can take some decisions. I've put them in group. Now, my guiding them will now be, I'm not going to tell them, group A, maybe you should meet in the library to do your work. Group B, maybe you should meet in the school hall. I'm going to ask them, group A, where do you think is the best place you want to do? Or how do you think you want to go about it? Now, I'm asking them questions. Based on all, I can just say, okay, group A, can you suggest 3 ways you want to do this activity? Let me give an example. Yesterday, I started teaching equations with fractions. I was going to start teaching equations with fractions today because we just resumed this week and I used the first few days for revision of last term's work. So my first topic this week was for my year 9, that's just 3, was supposed to be equations with fractions. And yesterday, after I finished their class, I knew I had them this morning, the first 2 periods this morning, and I told them, I said, go to page so and so of your essential maths textbook. And I said, study the example. And when you finish, exercise 14.1, answer any 10 questions. Now, exercise 14.1 had 23 questions in it. And I said, answer any 10. Now, I was sure of one thing. There's no way they will answer 10 questions that they will not answer difficult questions because I've already looked at it. I've already looked at it that anyhow, yes, they would get like 4 very easy tip questions to work with, but they will have 6 questions that would require them to do a lot of thinking. And I said they should answer any 10. I did not say answer question 1 to 10. Now, because I gave them that choice, now the beauty of it is they felt, they'll quickly do it because they feel they are the one choosing the numbers they are going to answer. When we came to class this morning, it made my work easy because one thing was clear. They had read ahead and they had solved questions ahead. So when we came to class this morning, I picked 5 students and I said, from the 10 questions you solved, solve 1 on the board. So when student 1 solved the first one, student 2 solved, and you can't solve the one student 1, so you solve another one. And they solved 5 questions. And while they were solving, I said, solve and explain to the class what you did. And I was standing by them and I was guiding. When they finished, I said, okay, yeah, this one you did well, but I think since you're multiplying with LCM, I just made a tweak on what they did for them. But it made it easy because the concept cut across clear to everybody. In fact, they were even struggling. Who wants to solve out of his own 10? But because of constraint of time, I worked with just 5. What am I trying to say? I gave them choice. See, we like choice. It's a human factor. Even the Bible says, today, I have set before you what life and death. Choose. Sheet of 20 questions. Mr. Albert, can you
We can't hear you for a long time.
hear me, please?
It was switched off right now. Yes. But it's still lagging.
Please, at what point did they stop hearing me?
When you were trying to say something like you might remove your video first. Let's see whether that's also straining there.
Okay, can you hear me clearly now?
Yes.
Okay, so
And
I was saying that
your screen is not showing.
I didn't stop sharing.
Okay, it's up now. It's up. Okay.
So I was saying that we like choice. We like giving that power of choice. To be very honest with you, the topic that would have taken me 3-4 days to teach, I can comfortably say I got the complete basic of everything today and my class was fulfilling. Just because I let them choose. Sometimes you need to step back. I know as teachers, we like to be in control. We like to, sometimes you step back. Step back. You'll be amazed at what you achieve. Just that simple act of read this, solve anything. That thing works like magic. If I tell them solve question this, question this, question this, question this, they'll tell me it's difficult. Sometimes I put it in a game form. They love to play games. Sometimes the questions are put in puzzle form. And before you know it, they have answered 20 questions. They didn't even realize they answered 20 questions because in their mindset, they were playing a puzzle. So let students create a schedule. When I gave you the task yesterday, I didn't tell you this is, I just said you do a presentation today. If you like, if you chose to finish your own yesterday, good. If you decided to work till today, good. I didn't even tell you how I want it. I just said you do a presentation. So a group can decide that their own presentation is PowerPoint. A group can decide that their own presentation is musical. They will just rhyme what they want in any way. The most important thing is that they understand, they get the concept, and they're able to do the activity properly. Very important. So let children plan. Give them opportunity to plan. Sometimes even when we do school programs, we are the ones, the teachers, that will plan everything from A, B, C, D. Let children plan. Let them take responsibility. So it says, over 2 weeks, students work in groups to research and debate climate change with their classmates. Students decide who would research which aspect of the topic, who will speak at different points in the debate. Not that you, the teacher, you are saying, Emeka, you will speak at the beginning. Tunji, you will be the second speaker. Let them decide. Because the reality is they know themselves better than you think you know them. And they know their own strengths. They know what they are capable of. I remember when my students were to go for a competition and they went into, my director likes to decide how they will speak, what they will speak. And when she was telling them everything, one of the students said, she just put up her hand politely, said, excuse me, ma, can I say something? My director said, yes, said, please, ma, can you let us take ownership of this? Said, because if you're giving me the points, I'm not going to take ownership of it and I'll not be able to do the presentation well. So my director just turned her laptop and said, oh yeah, start. Search whatever you want to search, write your points. And when they finish, they put it together. She only did a fine tuning and that was the end. So we should give children the chance to choose. Let them choose. Like I said, today, topic that would have taken me 3 periods to teach. By the grace of God, I finished it today. Why? Because I gave them a choice. I gave them a choice. I just told them, go and do this. When you finish under that chapter, solve 10 questions. And we're good. So the other one is opportunity to revise work based on feedback. It's not every time you give children work. I do this a lot. Sometimes when I give class activity and and they submit it as I'm going around and marking, it's not, must you fail them? So it's a class activity and I'm going around. I've marked question 1, question 2, question 3. I can see that there's something. I will just take my red pen, circle that place. This needs to be reviewed. Review it. And I move from that student to the next student. By the time, so give them opportunity to revise work. Give them feedback and let them implement that feedback into their work before you now give the final judgment. You know, sometimes I don't know, but I always feel that some teachers love the idea that they give people 0. Or, you know, there's some, I remember in those days, one teacher would say, you can't get 100 over 100. And I'm like, what's the crime in getting 100 over 100? Even when we were in university, you hear lecturers saying, you can't make an A in my course. And I'm like, what's the joy do you get from it? I think you should be pushing me to make an A in your course, not saying I can't make an A. The same thing with us. Our joy should be them making 100% and not saying that, why should the child write and get 100 over 100? My school, we run IGCSE, and the beauty of IGCSE is that IGCSE does not just give you a grade, it gives you the child's score. And there are students that IGCSE will send their score. You see, they got 100 over 100 in maths. And I'm always like, if these people are scoring, giving you 100 over 100, why are we afraid of giving 100 over 100? What's our problem? So we don't need to, see, you're there to transform knowledge. You're not an external examiner. When it comes to final end of term exam, yes. But in your classroom, that's what we call formative assessment. That's what you're doing in your classroom. Formative assessment means the child has an opportunity to improve on whatever they are doing before a final judgment is slammed on them. So if a child is at 50, they're able to improve to 80 before you now say, okay, that's their final score. Give them opportunity, give them feedback and let them revise based on it. Now here it says students learn about environmental conservation and create games in Kudo where players make decisions to preserve the environment. After developing a beta version, which is like an initial version of their game, students trade games with a partner and give each other feedback. So feedback does not necessarily, it's not every time that the feedback must come from you. Sometimes you can't give, I do it. When I give them activity, when they finish, I'll say, change your notes. Okay, read that person's work, see if the person has made a mistake that you can show the person and let the person improve on before you submit to me. So when they look, the person, they'll read each other's notes and they'll be able to tell the person, here, you were supposed to use minus, you use plus, you need to correct that. And they do that. Feedback is not necessarily just about you. So it says students create PowerPoint presentation about a topic in world history. Students do practice presentation, receive feedback from their educators and peers, and revise their presentation based on feedback before doing a final presentation. And when we say feedback, feedback must be incorporated. If the feedback is not incorporated, then it is not in line with self-regulation. It must be incorporated. So here, students did not show any evidence that they were aware of learning goals and success criteria. This is important. You're sharing your learning goals with your children and you're teaching them how to determine success criteria for themselves. So it means that every time they learn, they are going back. Have I really mastered A? If there's any question that comes on A, can I do it? Why it's important is so that by the time they get to exam, children are not struggling. They already know what they need to really practice. They already know the questions they need to ask for help for when they are doing revision. They know where they are. They can make a judgment. I train my children that way. My own children that I gave birth to, I train them like that too. And what I'm saying is you can even transfer this to your children at home. My daughter will come back and she will tell you that, Mommy, I'm sure that in this exam, I'll get a 60. Or I'm going to score 60 out of 70. And I'm like, why? She said, because I know that question this, I didn't do well. Question this, I didn't do well. So I've looked at the grades and this is it. And when the script comes back, it's like that. Children can make a judgment. And then they also, because once they're able to do that, they know what they need to improve on. So level 2 is at the point where they already are aware of learning goals and success criteria. Level 3 now gets to where they start planning their own work. They can monitor their work and do everything, plan, choose how they want their work and all that. And then level 4 is at that point where children are receiving feedback from you. A lot of times, even when you give them classwork, sometimes you just mark and you put score 3/5. You don't give them any form of feedback to help them improve. You don't give them any form of feedback to help them improve their work. So you marked this child's script and you wrote 3/5. Okay, the 2 marks the child missed. Did you tell the child why? Did you tell the child what the child could have done to get that 2 marks? So that when it gets to final exam, the child is not losing that 2 marks also. Because a lot of times we just grade, put the score, and that's the end. Children don't even know why they scored 4. That's why you see a lot of times children say, I don't know why I had 4. I thought I had written very well and I should get a 5. So you should not just give them the 4. Let them know. I do what I call comment marking. Sometimes I don't even put a score. I write comments. So I can write question 1, done properly. principle of BODMAS used effectively. Question 2, the first 2 steps, but in your second line, you failed to. So when the child gets the paper back, the child would know what they have done wrong, and they will make the necessary correction. So here we look at the flow diagram for the learning activity. So just a flow diagram of the rubric. So long-term activity, learning goals, success criteria. If it's a yes, it's level 2. If it's a no, it stays at level 1. So when you look at the activity, what do you see? And then here it says students opportunity. So the last level is where they have to revise their work. So please, let's work on doing comment marking, not just giving grades to students. Now, the next one we're looking at is real world problem solving and innovation. Real world problem solving and innovation. And the big idea here is first is problem solving, second, real world problem, and lastly, innovation. First, problem solving, second, real world problem, last, innovation. So what's problem solving? Problem solving is any task that comes with a defined challenge for students. Learning activity that requires students to problem solve, you don't give them all the information because you're expecting them to problem solve. So you don't give them everything they need. You're expecting them to bring something. You're expecting them to come up with something. A lot of times we all do problem solving because majority of the times when we set questions, we expect them to add to it. And that's why we're giving them questions that challenge them a bit. So a lot of times, yes, we do problem solving in our classrooms. A lot of times our questions, our activities are tailored towards problem solving. So you don't give them the complete instructions on what to do because you're expecting them to do some thinking. Now, so that's on problem solving. So there must be some level of defined challenge for the students, not the one that is a walkover. Now, students rewrote a story from the perspective of a character other than the narrator. So I can rewrite a story. There's this movie that has cut across from many years. It's the Titanic. A lot of people have written different stories on the Titanic from different people's perspective that were on board that ship. So from the perspective of people that, they've written different stories. So people will come up. I think the literature teachers are experts when it comes to this. Now, the other one says students used a map of a bus route to propose where pedestrian crossing should be added in a fictional town. So maybe they're trying to do a design or something, and they just remembered something that's, sorry, give me a minute. Let me just address this children. Okay, sorry, my students just came in. So there has to be, so now they are doing a fictional town, but they're using a knowledge of something, and they're problem solving. So there should be some form of defined challenge for children. Defined challenge for children in the activity that you're giving to them. So the no in the other one was students read a story and took a quiz about what they read. So they didn't develop any solution or anything. They didn't create anything that was of their own. So they were just using another person's own and reproducing it. Now, the other one is real world problem solving, which is something I'm very particular about. Can you hear me, please?
Yes.
Okay. So we say real world problem is when you use things that happen to real people. So for example, it's just like what I was saying. I want to teach ratio. I'm not saying the ratio of A to B is 2:3. If, please go and get real data. Go and meet the home economics teacher and ask the home economics teacher, please, what's your recipe for making cake? Real experience. I'm teaching on inflation in economics. What stops you from going to get statistics of what's happening in Nigeria and use it to teach in your class? Because that's the only way the children will even be aware of what. See, I'm sorry to say, this generation, they are entitled. They are entitled. Sometimes I feel sorry for their parents. And you know why? Because they don't understand. But when you begin to use some of these things to teach them in class, they are open to what is happening around them and they become more real. So it has to be something, if they're solving a problem, experienced by real people. Experienced by real people. Things that use actual data. I'm going to be teaching something on statistics. Why can't I use data? I mean, COVID was around us. You can go to NCDC site and get data from there. Not just using abstract numbers that don't make sense. I want to teach something. I want to ask them to draw a bar chart. Why don't I use their shoe sizes in my classroom? Get the data of their shoe sizes in the classroom. Real data. And use it. I want to teach on living and non-living things, or I want to teach on water filtration. Please, what is wrong with looking at a community that has a water challenge around you and bringing it into the classroom and saying we're dealing with water filtration. This is the situation in this community. This is what their water looks like. Based on what we have been taught, what do you think we can do? Used by real people. Used by real people, not abstract. Like I said, teach them with real things. Things they see every day. I remember I listened to a TED talk some time ago, and the lady that was talking, she's a Nigerian, and she said something. She said, when you're teaching, she was talking about an illustration. So for example, she said, A for apple, B for this. And she said, imagine you're teaching in a village community where the children have never seen apple before, and you say A for apple. How do you expect them to understand? Why don't you use A for akara? At least akara, they have it. Why don't you use B for beans? Must you use the American one? Use things that they can feel and understand. I don't know if you understand what I'm trying to say. Yes, we have. Now, I want to teach them on speed and distance. My children have never left Abuja before. They've always been in Abuja. Why am I going to use a distance of, I'm looking for one city in Lagos that I'm going to use that they don't even know, it doesn't make sense to them. You know the locations where your children come from. There's Google Map. With Google Map, you can tell what the distance from maybe a child that comes from town A to where you are. You can use Google Map to tell the distance. You can even tell your children when you are coming from, we're going to do this time. When you're coming to school tomorrow, make sure you look at your time. You left your house at 7 o'clock. When you get to school, look at the time so that you know how many minutes it took you to get to school. Use that information. And then you can now tell them, how do you now, based on what you have gotten, what do you think is the problem? How do they solve it? It has to be something that is real, not an abstract thing. So he said, students rewrote a Shakespeare play for a teenage audience. Teenage audience is real people. They are not just writing it for abstract people. Real people. Students use the town's bus map to propose where pedestrian crossing should be added in their own town. The last one was a fictional town. Fictional town means real people never get to use it. But in their own town, it will be used by real people. Students investigate whether growing plants in their classroom could improve air quality. They did not just investigate growing plants, but in their classroom, real people. How do we improve the quality of air in our classroom? If we grow plants, if we have a pot and we grow plants in the classroom, is it going to improve air quality? That could be a science experiment that you can do with your children. If we plant trees in our school community, is it going to improve the quality of air in our school community? That's an experiment you can give your children and you work on real people. Any questions, please? Any questions, please? Now, the last one now comes to innovation. Innovation now says where students are required to put their solution in practice in the real world. But there are cases where students might not. There are cases where students might not be able to implement their idea because they don't have the resources. For example, I just talked about water filtration. And I was like, okay, there's a community that has challenge with good drinking water. And then you've taught them about water filtration. And based on what you've taught, they realize that if they can do X, Y, Z, they can put quality water for that community. They have all the solutions, but they can't implement it. However, they can choose to write a detailed report of everything and mail it to the local government chairman. Once they are able to do it, it becomes innovation for them. The local government chairman might implement it, good. If he doesn't implement it, the fact that they've sent it to him, he might not do it. The person that comes after him might pick it up, look at it and say, this is a very good idea, implement it. It's innovation for the children. Oh, we have issue with litters in the classroom. What is the problem? The issue might be that they just look at it that, the waste baskets are not inside the classroom. When children eat their biscuits or whatever, they need to walk out of the classroom to so and so place to trash it. And a child can look at it and say, okay, no, I think we need waste baskets in the classroom. Now, they might not be able to provide that because they don't have the capacity, but they can write a letter to the school or to the PTA chairman who would now come and provide that for them. It has become innovation for them. The cases where they can actually provide solution. Now we're having issues with cleaning of our restrooms in our school. What can we do? The children can say, maybe cost of buying liquid soap is so expensive, so we're not able to. Home economics students will sit down and say, but we're taught how to do this in home economics class now. They write to the school. We are willing to do it. School provides them with this thing and they produce it. It becomes innovation for them. So what are we trying to say? Let children become innovative. I had a student in the former school where I work, because in my former school, students who have been picked for to be prefects, when they are on holiday, they usually take them for a 2-week camp. They take them for a 2-week leadership training and camp. They camp them there. They train them on leadership and all that. It was a 2-week thing they used to go for. And we've had a lot of sets that have gone there. And I used to say, what are they even going there? Because when they come back, I was like, I wasn't really seeing anything. But there was this particular set that went. And when they came back, Usually when they finish, because it's holiday, their parents will pick them and go home. And then when they resume is when they come back. It's always the long holiday they go for it. So in first term is when they come back. And there was this student, this girl, she came back. When she came back, she was the hostel prefect. She brought for her hostel detergent, liquid soap. She brought Dettol. She brought Izal, all those things. She brought it for her own hostel. And I was like, and then she had it labeled, logoed, and I was like, you had money to buy all this? And she said, no, auntie, I didn't buy it. Said when we went for that leadership training, they taught us how to make all these things. And I learned it there. And I decided to create my own. Till today, I am talking to you. The girl's mom works with Chevron. The mother is selling that thing to her colleagues in Chevron, liquid soap. The girl, in fact, the mother now helped her to brand it very well. And they were making a lot of money. So the mom would say, before the girl goes to school, she should have made a big drum. So when the girl comes back from midterm break again, she will make another big drum. And the mom was selling it. The mom would just be putting it inside the bottles, carry it to her office and sell. And she was making money. It's innovation. It's innovation. Let children be innovative. So solutions, so they need to create solutions that can be used by real people in the real world. Now, students rewrite a Shakespeare play for a teenage audience and perform it at a local youth center. What does it mean? It's innovation for them because the people that are going to come and watch it are going to benefit from it. People that are going to come and watch that play are going to benefit from the play. The other one says students write letter to the town council about their idea of adding pedestrian crossing in their town and mail the letter to the town council member. They cannot go ahead and do it. Oh, we noticed that this place is a school and cars speed a lot when they go over that place. So we need to put speed breakers. They cannot put the speed breakers, but they can write it, mail it, put their name as students, and they go and drop it with the local government chairman. Because it's possible that those ones have not even thought of that. It's innovation for them. So we're saying you're training children to solve problems, you're training them to solve real world problems, and you're training them to be innovative. Let them begin to put their ideas in practice. They might not be able to do anything. They can write something and mail it to the FCT minister and say, this is our observation in our community, and we feel that if you can do this, it would help solve this problem in our community. FCT minister might be just so impressed. Train your children that way. And like I said, children are the heritage of the Lord. Everything you do with them, you get a double dose of reward for it. Any questions, please? Okay. So here now we have the rubric for an innovation. Now the learning activity requirement is not problem solving. That's level 1. And if it's problem solving, is it real world? If it's real world, are they also innovating? So it just goes in that line. So if it's not problem solving, it's level 1. If it's problem solving, but it's not real world, it's level 2. And then level 3 is where it's problem solving and it's real world. And then level 4 is innovation. And this is the flow diagram for the rubric also. The rubrics are very important because you need to know them offhand. It will help you a lot when you're writing your exam. So we're going to do this tomorrow, which is use of ICT. There's a whole lot we're going to do here. there are a few things I'm going to show you people as teachers. How many of you have heard of ChatGPT? How many of you have heard of ChatGPT? Eh?
All of us.
I hope you're using it.
Yes.
So we're going to. I can't hear you. So can we have our presentation? Mr. Albert, please, we need the camera on. I need to put on my camera. We need the camera on. Hello? Okay, please, can we come out early tomorrow so we can have the presentation tomorrow? I can't hear you. Okay, you want to have the class at 1 p.m. tomorrow? Yes. Okay, I can't promise you that. I'll look at my schedule and see if 1 p.m. works for me. Okay. Yes, but tomorrow we only have that last rubric, which is use of ICT. And so that won't take time. And then we'll look at questions because I'm going to go over some exam questions with us. And I'm also going to go over a few things. For those of you who want to go global, we'll look at a few things that we can do and how we can get a lot of remote jobs out there. You don't need to quit your job. Like I said, I'm in school right now. I'm in my office and I'm still teaching online. I have classes once it's 6 p.m. I start teaching till about 10 p.m. So it's not like I need to quit my job. It's more like a side hustle or an extra income for us to use. So we'll do all that tomorrow. I can't. Any questions, please? Any questions, please? Any question? Okay, so I'll see you all tomorrow. I'll see you. Eh? Can I have one person speak? Please, can I have one person speaking on behalf of everyone so I can hear?
Please, we need a soft copy of the presentation.
Mr. Albert should give you there's a book, there's a material on this that contains everything in my presentation. Mr. Albert would provide that for you. Hello, can you hear me? Can I have one person, please? Can I have one person so that I can, because I'm not even seeing your faces. The camera is off. Can I have one person speaking so that I am sure of what you're asking and I can respond?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, please.
Okay. We are saying that if we can have the soft copy of the presentation slide, what you say, Mr. Albert will be able to take care of us.
Yes, there's an e-book that contains everything and even more things that Mr. Albert would be able to provide for you.
All right.
Yes, and then tomorrow when I'm done with the question and answer, I would also send the question and answer this thing so you can practice ahead of your exam.
Fine.
Okay.
All right,
okay,
thank you.
all right.
And I hope
Thank you.
tomorrow we'll be able to get your phone number too.
Okay. I can drop that in the chat for you. I don't know if you can see the chat. Have you seen it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. What?